Welcome back! In the last video, we covered the first golden age of Tycoon games, how piracy led to its eventual collapse, and how some games like SimCity Societies or Cities XL tried to bring it back only to completely miss what the fans were looking for and come crashing down in a fiery failure. This led to the dead decade, almost 10 years where Tycoon games were few and far between or were low-budget productions. It wasn't going to stay that way forever, though. Something interesting was happening in the PC gaming industry. Steam. Steam came out and gave people the option to download games straight to their computer, much like pirating did, which is why most people pirated games. It was just so convenient. It was so much less effort to download games to your computer than to go to the store and pay money for them. But now you had a way to do that legally while still supporting the creators that made the game. This gave rise to some more indie developers to try their hand at things. A developer called Colossal Order created a game called Cities in Motion, a transport simulator where you move passengers around a city, in a way that was somewhat reminiscent of Transport Tycoon but also completely different. Namely, it did something that no other transportation games did until then. Passengers actually cared where they were going, which was mind-blowing to those of us who like the genre. And the game did well. The game was well received and it was fun and well made. It was available on Steam, so people could easily buy it and download it to their computers and still pay for it, which gave the developer the ability to make a sequel, Cities in Motion 2. Cities in Motion 2 took the game to a much larger scale, where now they could simulate entire cities pretty much. This was also a good game. I enjoyed it. Maybe a little less user-friendly than the first one, but it still did what it set out to do. Also, it had multiplayer that was optional! Shocking! The game puttered around and did fairly nicely. It wasn't much and it had its flaws, but these were legitimate Tycoon-style games in an era that didn't have them. Meanwhile, it's been long enough that even EA was like, maybe we should try again. And they decided to bring back SimCity with a brand new title. It wasn't even going to be called SimCity 5. It was going to be this brand new launch for this series. It was just going to be called SimCity. It was going to have a whole lot of cool new features like making you play online and smaller maps. And not just the online play, the trailers kept going on and on about this new glassbox system, and this new engine that was going to make the game look like a toy and like a bunch of miniatures rather than like a full-sized city. Which some people were on board for, but I know I wasn't one of them. When I build a game meant to simulate building a big city, I like to feel like I'm building a big city. Toys and miniatures are supposed to simulate the real thing. If you're simulating a toy, you're just taking the simulation a step further from the thing it's supposed to represent. Which is fine, it's just a visual style, it had its ups and downs, and you could turn it off in the final game if you really wanted. But it seemed like this system is what half the trailers were talking about all the time. Meanwhile, they weren't talking enough about other features that people really wanted to see in the game. They were putting aside features that the target audience of the game was pretty loud about wanting to see in them, just so they could work on a feature that nobody else asked for. We've seen that before. It also had some good features, like the whole building modules thing that it did, which I genuinely think was a great idea. But it just showed that they didn't really pay attention to what was going on in this arena. They were repeating some of Cities XL's mistakes. This was not the SimCity people were hoping for. People wanted big cities and not having to frickin' play online. What is wrong with you? The game's release was terrible. The servers didn't work. It was considered disastrous, and the game received mixed reviews. I played it, I had fun with it, but it really, really missed the mark on so many things the users wanted. Things that they were really loud about. Things that they made pretty obvious. People wanted to be able to control traffic and zoning and stuff like that. They didn't want skyscrapers to pop out next to big roads and small buildings to pop out next to small roads. They did it because they were trying to simplify it, but simple isn't why people liked SimCity. You guys tried simple with SimCity Societies. It didn't work. The sequel showed just how much they missed the mark, proving once again they had no clue what the fans wanted. But then, we finally get to the nice part of the story, where the hero rides in. Colossal Order, who created Cities in Motion and Cities in Motion 2, saw their mild success with creating a city-scaled game, and with bringing back the Tycoon genre. It was a humble success, but it existed in a field that was thought to be dead. And so they started working on Cities Skylines. Cities Skylines was going to be the city builder that people were asking for. The announcement trailer showcased a bunch of promising looking features, transit management, massive cities. It was all looking pretty promising, but we couldn't get too excited knowing what ended up happening with Cities XL, until the trailer showed this. A trailer has to show the game's most impressive features in a short amount of time. Every second counts. By choosing to put offline play as a prominent feature of the game, the Cities Skylines team wasn't really advertising that it plays offline as most Tycoon games have in the past. It was actually taking a jab at other modern city builders and saying, hey, we've been paying attention, we know what's up. You can count on us to actually listen to what you want and try to get it right. This wasn't just going to be a money grab. This was going to be a labor of love. As Cities Skylines progressed, it seemed to have all the things people actually wanted. The micromanaging, in-depth transportation management, all these things that people were playing Tycoon games for. The ability to manage, the ability to control and shape things as you want them to be. Not just the ability to click a thing somewhere and suddenly it exists. Cities Skylines got that. It was the first game in ages to really listen to what the people who made Tycoon games successful in the 90s wanted from them, and bring it back. As more and more fans of this genre caught wind of this game, the hype around it grew and grew, leading to more attention and more people desiring this game. And when it came out, it was a smash hit. Cities Skylines was amazing. Everyone who wanted to play a city builder got it. This was the spiritual successor to SimCity, while the official SimCity games were floundering. After Cities Skylines came out, nobody remembered what SimCity even was anymore, because it took the crown. People still remembered the 90s SimCities, but SimCity 2013? Who? The game was so successful that, unfortunately for me, a fan of Cities in Motion, the company decided to stop developing Cities in Motion entirely. Cities Skylines was just way too successful to focus on anything else. The company grew, it moved to a new headquarters, and it showed that Tycoon games can in fact be made correctly. Not only could they be made correctly, they could be lucrative. You could make money off of them. Not only could you make money off of them, there was a huge audience there starving for these games that were suddenly making themselves visible. And with Steam now on the market kind of helping revive the PC gaming industry, this seemed like a good time for some more games to try and come out. Excitement really started when Atari wrote on their Roller Coaster Tycoon website forums asking what people wanted to see in Roller Coaster Tycoon 4. People were losing their minds with excitement. Roller Coaster Tycoon, one of the biggest series in the genre, was coming back. They hadn't announced anything, but they wouldn't be asking for suggestions if they weren't bringing it back, right? People wrote everything they wanted to see in Roller Coaster Tycoon 4. And then they waited. And waited. And waited. Nothing was happening. Meanwhile, a trailer for another amusement park building game came out, Planet Coaster. Nobody had heard of it. Behind it were apparently some of the people who worked on Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, which is generally considered the least popular one in the series. The trailer didn't show any gameplay, it just showed concept art, so people weren't really holding their breaths for that one as much as for Roller Coaster Tycoon 4. And then, as beta testing for Roller Coaster Tycoon World started, it became very clear something is horribly wrong here. The game behaved weird and lacked a lot of features people were hoping to see. Features that made the previous games successful and popular. The ability to build buildings, realistic rides. In this iteration of the game, coasters would just randomly fly off the tracks and you couldn't build anything? And so many other issues that people who loved Roller Coaster Tycoon had with this version? What the heck was going on? Atari did the same thing EA did with SimCity. They just brought back the title and kind of ignored everything people actually wanted out of it. People were disillusioned and heartbroken. Myself included. I was a beta tester. It was not the game I was hoping for. What the hell? But while all of this was happening, Planet Coaster started actually showing its content and gameplay. And it seemed better than anything we've ever seen before. Planet Coaster was actually what fans wanted. Better graphics, didn't adhere to a grid, it was realistic, and even the beta version worked so much better than what Roller Coaster Tycoon World would end up being upon release. It had its flaws, and there was this whole big war between fans of Planet Coaster and fans of Roller Coaster Tycoon World, each one saying their game is amazing and the haters just hate because it's not the other game. But the reviews spoke for themselves. People were loving Planet Coaster and hating Roller Coaster Tycoon World. As did the fact that Atari seemed to delete every negative comment posted about Roller Coaster Tycoon World in the forums, no matter how nicely or constructively it was phrased. Suddenly, the Roller Coaster Tycoon World forums, which were very active up to that point, dropped down to almost no activity as Atari seemed to ban almost everyone in them, just for speaking their mind. And can you guess where all those people went? To the Planet Coaster forums, of course, where free discussion and criticism of both products was allowed. Longtime fans of the series, such as myself, got a refund for Roller Coaster Tycoon World the day it came out. This was considered a massive failure. Meanwhile, Planet Coaster was taking on the new crown as the king of amusement park building games that used to be worn by Roller Coaster Tycoon, by giving us everything we wanted out of a Roller Coaster Tycoon game. Much in the same way that Cities Skylines had taken that crown from SimCity, giving us what we were hoping to see from a SimCity game. And with two new massive successful titles of the Tycoon genre showing their success to the whole world, the industry broke out. Suddenly on Steam you saw indie games making a resurgence and building those games that they have been waiting between 10 and 15 years to see. Tycoon games were hitting the market at a crazy rate. City builders, business sims, you name it, everything was coming out at once. It was amazing. This was the start of the second golden age of Tycoon games. Some were completely new, original intellectual properties with their own unique ideas. Some games like Factorio decided to take things in a whole new direction and create something we haven't seen before and give themselves a real cult classic status, even before the finished version ever came out. Other games tried to do what Cities Skylines did to SimCity and what Planet Coaster did to Roller Coaster Tycoon, and take an old game and try to create it but new and right. This would lead to some old favorites being reimagined into new games with more features and better graphics. Games that were made as love letters to the games we all grew up loving. You love Theme Hospital? Well, why not try 2 Point Hospital? You love Sim Tower and U Tower? Why not try Project High Rise? These games weren't hiding the fact that they were based on other games. In fact, they were wearing it on their sleeves. Hey, we are basically this game that you liked, but now with more features than you could have ever imagined. And as I am recording this video, this genre of games is booming. It seems like they're finally back. And all at once, I can't keep up. There are more tycoon and city building games in development right now than I could possibly follow. I actually have to decide which ones I'm buying and which ones I'm not. And 10 years ago, that would have sounded insane to me. I would have been lucky to have one. And now they're everywhere. No matter what are you looking for, you can find it. You want to build an amusement park, build an amusement park. You want to build a ski resort, build a ski resort. You want to build an ancient city, build an ancient city. You want to build a modern city, build a modern city. You want to build a fantasy city, pick your flavor, zombies or ice. They're finally back. And they're growing strong. And I really hope that you, as I'm assuming fans of the genre, if you're watching this video, will decide to support these games. Pirating already killed them once. Don't let it do it again. Obviously, I had to summarize some things for this video and maybe ignore some smaller games that came out over the years. I know that Game Dev Tycoon was also one of the first Tycoon games to really revive the genre. But the point is, they were here, they went away, we were sad, and now they are finally back, and it's so great. It's so great. I'm hoping to do more videos about what some of these new games are and tell you what I think of them, what I think you should be on the lookout for. Not all of them are getting the attention they deserve, and I want to maybe make a video or two about that. I don't know if I will, but I'm gonna try. If that sounds like a topic you'd be interested in seeing me make videos about, please let me know by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I kind of hate when people say that, but you know, it would actually legitimately let me know that you want more videos about this topic, which would help encourage me to make them. This was my analysis of how we finally got to the second golden age of Tycoon games. I hope you enjoyed it. I've been Tomix, and build on!